Hey everyone, wanted to thank you for attending our first ever virtual digital Velocity. Hope everyone's staying safe out there, and again, appreciate your time for stopping by, and hopefully we learn something together. Today, I'm going to be talking about moving your customer experience to a mobile first world. Tealium has a very robust mobile solution, and we're excited to tell you a little bit more about it in an age where the majority of users are going mobile first. Quick introduction. My name is Kyle Brierly. I am recording from my apartment in San Diego. I am director of product for Tealium. I've been with the company for about 4 years. I focus primarily around our mobile products and our integrations and some of our developer tools. Is mobile turning into your biggest data silo? This is something we see with a lot of brands of all different sizes. You've got disparate customer experiences based on the device that they're using. And mobile is sort of notoriously considered one of those silos because you've got unique skill sets that apply specifically to mobile. You've got unique tools that you use for that mobile experience. And in the end, what we see is a lot of brands struggling with a unique data set that's being produced from that mobile experience. So we at Tealium think there's a better way to sort of collect data and drive that experience while tying it into the rest of the experiences and touch points for your users. As we all know, you've seen graphs like this. The rise in mobile usage continues to go up and up. Year over year, just the total time spent on mobile and IoT devices, the amount of traffic going through these devices continues to go up. And with that, brands are responding, right? You have to go where the eyeballs are. So the ad dollars spent across device types sort of reflects that same change. I think another aspect of this is the quality and the robustness of what applications can do across these different mobile and IoT devices now. They can support better ad formats. There's a lot better utility within the apps themselves for users to drive a similar experience that they would on the brand's website, right? So catering your experience and your messaging to users in that environment becomes increasingly important. Gartner put out a study recently. I won't read through the whole quote, but I think the main thing to take away is a lot of people, when they talk about mobile, they're specifically thinking about handheld devices, right? But Gartner is starting to think about mobile as all these different types of devices, or connected devices, I should say, right? Smartwatches, smart TVs, things like that. And at Tealium, I especially think of how important it is to start thinking about the unique data collection methods that would tie into these different devices, right? A user on their smartphone is going to behave very differently from a user on their smart TV when they're interacting with a brand's content, especially different from how they would operate on the website, right? Specific example for myself, I was shopping on Nike.com recently, and I was thinking about this. The Nike app has improved so much over the years that I've been sort of drawn to be using the app more and more because you can get everything done that you would on the website. But my expressions of intent to buy certain products look different in those mediums, right? On the website, you've got more screen real estate. You might spend more time sort of browsing at the category level for a product versus on mobile. You might just use the search feature to get right to the product or the category that you're looking for versus sort of scrolling through. So these signals look different, right? Maybe my time spent within the app is shorter, but the expression of intent to buy something might be greater. I'm just expressing that differently, right? And so that's going to manifest itself across all these devices, right? Smartwatches, smart TVs. So at Tealium, we're thinking about, what are ways that we can collect those data points and standardize them so that you're looking at sort of a broader view of that customer's engagement with your brand. Challenges still remain, right? Collecting data from a mobile environment efficiently and accurately is tough. The experience in mobile is unique, obviously, right? Like I was just saying, the way a user is going to interact with your brand and sort of show their level of engagement is going to be very different from the way it would manifest on your website. Data from mobile devices kind of tends to live in its own silo, right? Again, you've got a certain set of identifiers that are unique to the mobile ecosystem. You probably have a unique set of tools and endpoint solutions that you're using to drive that mobile experience. And in the end, if you're not thinking strategically about how you implement these different tools and these different data collection methods, you could end up with sort of, the standalone bucket of mobile data that's still highly valuable and related to your users interacting with your brand, but it could be disconnected from your website or your in-store purchase data, things like that. Cross-device authentication is key, right? So being able to recognize that, this person who just bought in store has now shown up and is using the app. How do we know that's the same person without authentication? This is something that every brand struggles with, but it's important, and there's strategies that you can imply to make that a little bit easier. And then developer resources are a hot commodity at every company, right? And again, like I mentioned earlier, mobile development can sometimes be a unique or a niche skill set that is owned by one team. So, maybe a company doesn't have as many developer resources allocated to mobile as they would the website. So, the marketing teams and the business teams fighting for those resources to get changes in place, collect data differently, implement this new tool can be tough, right? So you may not be as agile on the mobile side. And then consent and privacy. This is becoming increasingly relevant with all the new laws in place. But again, thinking strategically, how are we collecting consent, persisting that setting for the user, and distributing that information downstream to make sure all your endpoint solutions line up with what the customer has consented to. So what's the way forward, right? Tealium has a pretty unique solution for these mobile environments. We like to think about it in three ways, and this is sort of end-to-end data collection, right? How are we grabbing those data points from the user interacting with the brand, and then again, how are we distributing that data to downstream systems? So we have sort of our client-side approach, which is managing that whole process within the application itself, or on the website itself in the browser. We have a fully server-side approach, meaning collect all the data server-side and then distribute everything to endpoint solutions from the server using REST APIs, things like that. And what we're seeing more and more of is sort of a hybrid approach, right? There are situations where a client-side only implementation is necessary based on the tool you're using or the environment that you're trying to implement. And then again, same thing with server side. So Tealium has an approach and an offering that makes all of these possible and relatively easy to set up. Walking through the solution itself, sort of left to right here, the first thing is data collection, right? So our Tealium for mobile solution all starts with that data collection. Getting a standardized strategy in place, a unified data layer that sort of lines up with the way you're collecting data across all your other touch points, your website, in-store purchase data, things like that. Consent, as you're collecting that data, making sure that you're having users opt in or opt out, and then again, persisting that choice from the user over time and being able to, again, distribute that to endpoint solutions. Tealium's got a solution to not only prompt and show the user sort of options for managing their own consent, but we can store those settings server side. Single customer view, this is extremely important, right? So after you've collected a standardized version of the data being produced by the user interacting with your brand, How are we storing that against a visitor's profile or a customer's profile over time with all the data points coming in, right? So if they're making a purchase on mobile or a purchase in the store in a retail location, we want to know that, but it should look the same, right? That should be 2 purchases for the same user. And then past that, the distribution of this now unified and collected data to your downstream systems. And again, to the previous slide, whether that's a client-side integration, a server-side integration, or some combination of the two, Tealium spends a lot of time and effort building out very robust integrations with our strategic partners so that you've got unified data in all your platforms. A couple of new features that have come out for the Tealium Mobile offering. I'll run through these quickly. Geofencing and location tracking. So this is exciting. This is a very new feature that was released in the past couple months. But this is the ability to now collect location data being emitted from the user's device in real time. It's a new module that you can install for both iOS and Android. And you can actually pair this with our geofencing capability too. So if you've got a list of points of interest or your own retail locations, Tealium can now track the user's location relative to these geofenced areas. And you can keep track of things like how much time they spent in a geofence, did they enter, did they exit? And again, that gets tied into your broader data collection strategy. So these events that get emitted, maybe they entered your retail store. That's some sort of expression of intent, potentially. So again, giving you the ability to collect this net new data point and include it in your broader strategy, we hope is going to create some powerful solutions for our clients. And event batching, another net new feature for Tealium. This one's a little bit more tactical, but behind the scenes, we now have the ability to batch events that get emitted from the user's device. So whereas previously, every single interaction with the mobile app, you scroll, you click a button, you close the app, you open the app, each of those events would get sent as a single network request to our collection endpoint. This can be pretty heavy on the bandwidth, the CPU of the device, network usage, things like that. So what we've done is created a new way to collect these events in batches to sort of increase the performance on the device and ensure that you're not going to lose any of that data if the user closes the app and opens it too many times. We've got now a solution in place. It's very easy to use. You can enable it and we'll handle the collection of these batched events in real time again. So at this point, I'd like to pause here and jump over to a quick demo of the Tealium for Mobile solution. I'll walk you through a few integrations and sort of a standard use case that we'll see from our brands. But I wanted to highlight how easy it is to set Tealium for Mobile up. And so let's check it out. Okay, so for the demo, we have a pretty simple use case set up here, but it should highlight a few of the concepts that we went through in the presentation. So we've got real-time standardized data collection using the Tealium SDK for iOS. And that is installed in this demo app that you'll see here in the simulator on the left. We've got a client-side integration using one of our remote commands integrations, as well as some server-side integrations. So that's kind of that hybrid approach. And we'll also try to personalize the experience in the app based on the customer profile that we're building in Audience Stream. So over here on the right side in the customer data hub, I'll just highlight really quickly the badge that we're going to try to assign. That's this gamer's badge right here. So basically the experience we're trying to replicate here is a user in a brand's app. They're going to unlock an achievement and reach a certain level within that game. And based on that, we're going to have them join an audience. We're going to update that visitor profile in real time and personalize the experience, right? So let's try it out. So I'll start up a new trace here, and this is our real-time debugging tool. And what this does is it will allow you to see data being collected in real time, as well as the visitor profile getting updated. Here we go. So you'll see data start to come in, and there's a lot going on here. You don't need to see, every single thing. But back here on the left, we'll keep going through. I'll probably log in with my password. There we go. So now I'm here in the demo app. So I'll head over to the gaming tab right here. And again, you'll see all that data standardized coming in. And again, we're highlighting what's happening with the visitor profile. You can see badges getting assigned here based on my activity as I'm using the app. Let's go over the gaming tab, and we're going to go ahead and unlock the achievement. We need to reach at least level 3. And so the way we have this set up is, again, to highlight Tealium's SDK, the way it's designed, the ability to collect data sort of between sessions for a user. So if I, the user, got to this point, unlocked that level within the game, want to end on a good note. I'm a gamer myself. I've done that before. You get a high score and you want to walk away, end on a high note. So over here in the simulator, maybe what I'll do is, since I reached level 3, I'll go ahead and close the app. So what that indicates in the Tealium platform is that this session has now ended for that user. And so based on that, you'll see right there at the end of the session, now I have this gamer's badge assigned, which is perfect. So now let's go back into the app. We'll go over to my account page, check out the travel section. And when I come back here, you can see on this gaming tab, you've got this confetti effect. And so what's happening is our SDK is communicating with the Tealium platform and pulling back the current state of my customer profile. So we've stored the fact that I'm now, I've got this gamer badge assigned, I reached level 3, and now we know that back in the app so we can personalize the experience, which is great, right? So instead of trying to manage all that information in the client itself or in memory, things like that, because we're collecting all this data server side, storing it against a visitor profile, computing against some of these calculations, and then return it back to the app, we can then personalize the experience. That's awesome. So the other thing I'll highlight here is you'll see these actions being processed. And what that means is these are our server-side connectors distributing data somewhere. And so we can highlight this here. This is Adobe Analytics. And basically what we're doing is, instead of having the Adobe SDK in the app itself, what we're doing is Tealium is collecting the data and then distributing it server side via our connectors. So I'll hide this real quick and come over to our connectors. We have both audience stream and event stream connectors, and I believe Adobe is over here. And this is actually our newly redesigned connector experience, just released very recently. So you can see this is our Send Analytics event connector action, and you get some reporting over time of how many times this action has sent data to Adobe Analytics. So again, this is a scenario where you don't want your developers to spend their time implementing yet another SDK. Tealium will collect the data and distribute that server side. The other thing that we have here within the app itself is we're using one of Tealium's remote command integrations. So you can see these on our documentation site, but I have the Firebase remote command set up just to send analytics data to a Firebase account. And so if I come over here, this is Firebase's debug view. Similar to our trace tool, you can see I've had this up in the background. We've been sending data to Firebase using that remote commands integration. And this is sort of that SDK management client-side approach. So in scenarios where you do need the SDK in the app, Maybe you're using Firebase for other things to personalize the experience or send push notifications, things like that. Tealium's remote command integration can help manage the Firebase SDK for you. So you're only working with the Tealium SDK, and yet we'll still send all the necessary data over to Firebase. So back into the platform here, again, we covered managing a visitor profile server side, delivering that visitor profile back into the client so we can personalize the experience. And then we've got that hybrid integration approach, Firebase in the client, and then Adobe Analytics server side. And that's about it for the demo, but hopefully that gives you a good preview of what using Tealium for mobile looks like. All right, so there's a lot more we could go over around mobile and how Tealium solves for the mobile implementation. But for those of you who haven't seen the platform or are thinking about installing Tealium for mobile, hopefully that was a good preview. We saw a little bit of the client-side approach, the server-side approach, ultimately that hybrid approach that we talked about earlier, as well as managing a 360 view of the customer. And if you want to check out more around that solution and some of the more advanced features, you can find everything in our documentation and in our learning community. So let's take a quick look at the roadmap ahead for mobile. One of the features I'm really excited about is server-side extensions. So what this will be is essentially the ability for you to write custom JavaScript functions that will run server-side. So as events get collected, you can execute these functions to essentially transform the data that's coming in. So if you have sort of a misaligned data layer object, you need to rename some keys or reset some values. This is the feature that will allow you to do that. So these will run before all the enrichments, before data goes anywhere else. As data is coming in, if you need to transform something, this feature will let you do that. So this is hopefully coming later this year, but we're very excited about this one. Remote commands has been a big focus for us in 2020, and we've got more of them coming. So as our clients reach out to us and ask for these integrations, we work with these strategic partners to make sure that these remote commands integrations are solving for all the use cases that you might want to set up between the two platforms. So you'll see, AppsFlyer, Coachella, Airship, and Quantum Metric likely coming later in the year, and that backlog is a lot longer. That's just a few of them that are on the roadmap. And again, you can go to docs.tealiumiq.com to check out all the current remote commands integrations that we have there. Again, this is that client-side approach, sort of an SDK management or a wrapper solution, if you will. And this is great for, again, those times where you need that vendor SDK in the client. Tealium can help you manage all those vendor SDKs and get them the data they need in order to, drive that customer experience within the mobile environment. And then we have some updates and enhancements coming to our SDKs as well, right? So again, kind of the theme of the talk is, better data collection and driving a better customer experience in those mobile environments. And that first step is, how well are you collecting that data, and does it line up with all the data that you're collecting across these other touch points? So we have all of our mobile libraries are available today. Again, you can see that on our doc site. But we have Swift version 2 coming out for iOS. We have Kotlin version 1 coming out for Android. Currently Java is available for Android. And we've got some major enhancements and performance optimizations coming across all our libraries, especially things like React Native, Xamarin, Cordova, Flutter, and our other current mobile libraries, Objective-C and Java. You'll see minor releases and major releases coming throughout the year. Again, we're trying to make them lightweight, have very minimal impact on the customer experience themselves, and easy to use, right? We want these solutions to be as turnkey as possible when you go to set them up. And that's all we have for today. Again, I want to thank everyone for joining us for this virtual digital velocity. Hope you have a good time. Thanks.